Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tyler Barker, coordinator within the Office of Parent and Family Programs here at Georgia Tech, and I'd like to welcome you to our What's Buzzin' at Georgia Tech webinar series. We are so excited to have you join us today. Today, we will be focusing on the Career Center and the resources and programs available to help your students be successful. We know that one day we want your students to walk across that stage and be well equipped to have a job offer, pursue entrepreneurship, pursue their future endeavors after their time at Georgia Tech. So this is a very important webinar, and today we are joined by none other than the Director of the Career Education in the Career Center, Laura Garcia. And I'll let Laura introduce herself and just kind of take it away. If you have any questions for Laura as she's presenting, please feel free to utilize the Q&A chat box. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to utilize the Q&A chat box. This is also a timely webinar as our All Majors Career Fair is just a little over a week away. So I'll let Laura take it away.
All right, so hi everyone. Thank you all for joining in today. Again, I'm Laura Garcia, and I work in the Georgia Tech Career Center overseeing a variety of different career education efforts to directly help your students. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. I'll check sporadically throughout the presentation to see what questions will come in. Or Tyler, if at any point you see questions come in that I haven't addressed, feel free to stop me at any point. I'd be happy to go over that. So today, let's talk about what's buzzing at Georgia Tech, namely the Career Center, and how we can support your students. So today, I want to help you all understand the purpose of the Career Center and ultimately how we assist students. I'll help you identify the various Career Center resources listed in our slides and how that you can use them and encourage your students to use them. I'll talk to you about how your students can meet with career advisors and other staff to help them receive a variety of different supports in their career. And lastly, I want to talk about how students can market their skill sets to employers. Some of your students may have just arrived at Georgia Tech. You may have students that have been here for a couple of years. So I'll try to address some tips that hopefully you can pass along to your student as their time goes on at Georgia Tech. So big picture, the Career Center, these are the core services that we provide. So one-on-one career advising, we help support students in their major and career exploration in a variety of different ways. We provide employer connections, namely through our career fairs, on-campus interviews, and other services. And we do manage the co-op and internship program at Georgia Tech. All of that is registered through our office. And this is a picture of our building. Most students and probably most parents are aware of Tech Tower. If you're looking at Tech Tower, we are directly beside it and we're attached to the football stadium. Here are just a couple of the topics that we can help your students with. So anything and everything related to the job, internship, and co-op search, from identifying employers that could hire them to preparing their resumes, cover letters. We provide mock interviews and other interview tools that can help them practice. We help assist students with career fair prep through one-on-one consultations as well as workshops, and also through networking, LinkedIn profiles, and salary and negotiation conversations once they receive an offer from employers. So our vision in the Career Center is to help students unleash their potential. So many times students kind of come in with one particular thought that, okay, I need to focus on my grades. I need to have a 4.0 for employers to ultimately hire me. And sometimes students come in with the blinders on. And they don't really understand the big picture of what they need to do to be successful overall, and big picture what employers are looking for. But a lot of what we're talking about today, even if your student is thinking of going on to graduate or professional schools, all of the things we're talking about right here will help them to be competitive for graduate schools or full-time employment, if that's what they're seeking immediately after graduation. In the Career Center, we encourage students to think about their career development as a cyclical, ongoing event. It is not just a one-time decision about choosing a major and that dictates your career, that dictates your life moving on. We encourage students at Georgia Tech to explore all the majors that are offered, career paths that are affiliated with that major, or career paths that may not necessarily be tied to that academic discipline. We help students identify popular job functions related to their major, And we encourage these students to get involved in a variety of different ways through student groups, through research, anything and everything to help expose them to what they can do with their major and what they can do after they graduate. We help prepare students by critiquing their resumes one-on-one, as well as providing workshops. We'll do mock interviews with students and provide workshops on all different types of topics, all of which were listed in the previous slide. We help students craft networking emails, help them understand how to network, introduce themselves, communicate effectively, and ultimately develop their skill sets in a variety of ways. We encourage students to engage, and engage means showing up, participating in career fairs, signing up for on-campus interviews, networking at any and every event that comes on campus where employers are present. That's very important for students. It may be easy to apply for a job online. However, it takes a little bit more effort to show up to a career fair or to show up to some other professional networking event. And that extra effort oftentimes results in students getting noticed by employers and ultimately selected to interview. And oftentimes that may result in an extended offer for a co-op, internship, or full-time role. So it's important for students to engage. So I had a conversation with a colleague in the Scheller College of Business about common things that he noticed common mistakes students would make. And every year he mentioned a student would say, well, nobody told me I needed a co-op or an internship. Nobody told me I needed to have a GPA of a 3.0 or above. Nobody told me that I need to be a leader on campus. These are all core skills and core experiences that students should develop during their time at Georgia Tech. Just like students had to be involved in the community, involved in their high school, they had to focus on academics and be engaged in other ways. They need to continue that behavior in college. They need to incorporate co-ops, internships, research, study abroad, and other work experiences into their time at Georgia Tech. If you ask most employers which they would prefer, a student who graduated in 3 years versus a student who graduated in 4 years and incorporated co-ops or internships, most employers are going to pick students that have relevant hands-on experience versus a student who just tried to get in and out the door at Georgia Tech. But sometimes students think, oh, the only thing employers care about are academics, and certainly that's important, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. As they're going throughout their time at Georgia Tech, it's important for students to just pause and help them reflect. And this is where conversation with you may be really helpful in encouraging students to reflect on some of these questions. So based on their time at Georgia Tech, what are you good at? What are some skill sets that you've engaged or that you've gained? What do you enjoy doing? What problems do you want to solve in the larger world? Do you want to work with people? Do you want to work with products? Sometimes just asking these open-ended questions and giving students an opportunity to reflect, it may help them change direction as they go throughout their time at Georgia Tech or help them discover new opportunities. So we support students in a variety of different ways. I've mentioned individual advising and workshops. We also provide drop-in hours Monday through Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. in the Career Center. So if your student ever comes to you and says, I just got a call from an employer, I have an interview the next day, or I'm completely lost, I don't know how to craft a resume and I need to submit one to a job opportunity, please encourage them to always know that they can stop in 2 to 4 Monday through Friday with any career questions. These are usually short 10 to 15 minute check-ins, but we also have individual advising appointments that could be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or longer, depending on the topic. We provide those employer connections through career fairs, interviews, speakers, panels. If your students are completely undecided with what they want to pursue, either for their career or if they're considering changing majors, know that we have a variety of assessments that we can give to them, or also just talk through some of their concerns and weigh the pros and cons of potentially doing that. We have tons of industry guides, targeted job boards. We have a campus closet. So if your student wants to attend a professional event and perhaps they didn't bring a suit or professional attire to campus, they do have the ability to check out items for free from our on-campus closet. Details are on the Career Center's website, which is career career.godtech.edu. If you have any students that have just started out at Georgia Tech, we do participate heavily in GT 1000, which is an optional course first-year students can take or transfer students can take. In that particular section, we go over resume writing for first-year students, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from students over the years that this is really helpful for them to know from day one what they need to be doing to craft effective resumes, and it helps them to see, certainly education is important, but that's a small section on a resume. What should I be doing now? What should I plan for? So that way, by the time I graduate, I've got an effective resume that shows all the skills, qualities, and experiences I could bring to future employers. And please note that we do serve alumni up to 2 years after graduation. So if your student struggles with securing employment for any reason, or they're thinking about shifting careers, please do encourage them to stay in contact with us and to stay connected. They can stay active in CareerBuzz, which is our online job board, up to 2 years after graduation as well. And students that are 2 years or more out from graduation, we have Georgia Tech's Alumni Career Services Office that they can connect with. So let's go through some key resources that I think will help your students. Number one, they need to be aware, A, of CareerBuzz and be active on CareerBuzz. It is students' 24/7 portal to career success and a variety of different resources. Through this site, they have the ability to schedule appointments to meet with career advisors. If students would like to participate in co-ops or internships, full-time positions, all of our job listings are listed in CareerBuzz. And to participate in co-ops, students have to register those experiences in order to stay enrolled at Georgia Tech. So they would do that directly through CareerBuzz. You also have the ability to apply for employer opportunities that may be interviewing on campus. You can post your resume to be visible to employers if you select to make your resume public. And you can hear about a variety of career events that are coming up, as well as helpful workshops. A few career resources that I wanted to touch on, and I've hyperlinked all of these, and I've shared this presentation with Tyler. So if you need this presentation, he already has that, and you all can connect for that content. Glassdoor, if you have students who have upcoming interviews or are confused about typical salary ranges for the occupation they're considering pursuing, please recommend that they check out glassdoor.com. They can look up interview questions that were posed by companies in the past. They can not only find salary information, but they can also look up salary information by individual employers. You can filter even further down, depending on how much data is in the system, which Glassdoor is a very popular site. They can even filter by that particular job type. Going global, this is particularly helpful for our international students. We oftentimes will get questions from them about, who are the employers that will sponsor international students? What opportunities are open to me? So Going Global has an H-1B database that students can filter through and identify employers who have sponsored in the past. And that's oftentimes the advice that I share with international students, that if you're interested in seeing which employers hire, I would recommend going through the H-1B database, because if they've sponsored in the past, they're more likely to sponsor students in the future. Here are a couple of other highlighted resources as well. One of my absolute favorites, so for those students who are really trying to explore an industry or a field, or trying to identify, let's just say, the top 20 consulting employers, or key players in the financial and investment banking or other financial services industries, Career Insider, powered by the Vault, has a variety of different guides. And I really like how in-depth they go. So an example would be careers in sustainability, careers working with animal and wildlife. Of course, a lot of engineering, computer science, business-related guides, but there are a variety of industries that you can learn more in depth about what that entails and popular pathways to break into that. A couple of other things I wanted to make you all aware of. So if you go to career.godtech.edu, you'll see a link to our resume writing guide. This is a great resource for students to quickly look through and see sample resumes, other great tips that can help them, and to start sorting through and identifying popular formatting types, and just seeing other examples that may help them as they start reflecting and thinking about how they can craft their own individual resume. Big interview. In addition to doing mock interviews directly with our staff, they can conduct interviews online 24/7. You have the ability to create a free account on Big Interview using a Georgia Tech email address. So it's hyperlinked here, but if you go to the Career Center website, click the undergraduate tab, career tools, you'll see a lot of these tools that I'm talking about right now all on that one page. Big Interview, once you create your free account, you can do a variety of things. You can do industry-specific interview questions where an interviewer will pose a question. You have the opportunity to record your response. And there are different videos and other written materials to help students understand why are employers asking me these questions? What are they looking for in these responses? So definitely encourage your student to check that out if they have interviews coming up. Many interviews right now and likely moving forward, in particular first or second round interviews, likely will either be phone or video interviews. I don't know for a fact, but likely many moving forward will be video interviews for first rounds. So students need to be used to seeing themselves on camera, and recording themselves can oftentimes help them to see things that they're unaware of that they may be doing, whether it's ums or maybe it's their voice tone or overall enthusiasm. They can see that, and they may not like me sharing this with you, but they can also send you a link to their recorded responses to interview questions, and you can even evaluate them. They could send it to anybody and everyone that they would like to. So you could send it to everybody right before Thanksgiving, the holidays, or any other family members you would like. I'm sure they would not appreciate me making that suggestion. So as I mentioned earlier, appointments can be both virtual or in person. Most of our appointments are about 30 minutes in length, but students can also schedule 1-hour appointments. Typically, when we meet with students, we talk about a lot of different things. Of course, resumes, cover letters, interviewing questions, but we also help students think a little bit bigger than just their major and popular pathways. We help them to identify who are employers that hire their particular major. What are some common job titles? Beyond the job titles, what do these jobs really mean? What does it mean to be a foreign service agent? What does it mean to go in investment banking? What does it mean to be an electrical engineer? So we can work with them to help them determine and gain more information and insight into a variety of careers. We have the ability to talk to students about salary negotiation, helping them to evaluate their offer or multiple offers. We have a lot of conversations about that with students about, I've received this offer, but I'm not sure if I want to accept it. Maybe I should consider another offer from another employer. So we help to weigh the pros and cons with that. We also provide LinkedIn critiques. I'm going to take a quick pause. Okay, so I don't see any questions that have come in yet, but again, if any come in, either I'll address them at the end, but I'll also check in a little bit more as we go on. So we have a great event coming up next week. You'll see details up here. If you have students that are seeking co-ops, internships, or full-time jobs, they are in an active job search, they need to be at the All Majors Career Fair next week. The first 2 days, September 13th and 14th, are in McCamish, which is our basketball arena on campus, and it will be held from 9:30 to 4 p.m. All your student needs to do is to show up in business professional attire, to bring their Career Buzz card, and we'll sign them in, and then they'll have the ability to meet with all employers. Do be aware that the employers that participate September 13th and the 14th, they aren't necessarily participating both days. Most employers are participating in one of the 2 days. Details are in Career Buzz. You're going to hear this theme from me over and over. Students need to be active in Career Buzz, and they can find a lot of information and details there. September 15th, we will offer a virtual career fair. Details in Career Buzz from 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And students can participate in all of these. They aren't limited to a day. And be aware, just like the in-person career fair days, the virtual career fair, some of these employers will participate in person, but some employers, for a variety of different reasons, are unable to participate in the in-person days on the 13th and the 14th. So students need to look day by day and identify the employers that are participating. we have offered a variety of different workshops to help them prepare. We have a workshop this afternoon from 4 to 5 on career fair prep, but don't worry if your student has not already planned for this. We have posted a lot of resources online. So if you go to career.godtech.edu, if you click on the events tab at the top and then career fairs, it'll take you right to the link that you see here. And you'll see the fall all majors career fair right at the top. Once students open that up and click for student information, they can review a pre-recorded career fair prep workshop. We provide a sample introduction that they can use, and they can see a model that they can look to as they plan their own introductions during the career fair. We also provide advice on how they should prepare, from researching employers to identifying their plan each day to introducing themselves, following up, so on and so forth. All right. And I also wanted to kind of sum up broadly how we encourage students to market their skills to employers. So during GT 1000 and through the majority of the presentations that we deliver to students, we like to talk a lot about how you can market yourself to an employer. And we focus not only on the technical skill sets, which I think is pretty common for Georgia Tech students to focus a little bit too much on that and overlook that they have gained a lot of essential skill sets from communication, teamwork, leadership, and these are things they need to actively be working on. Because to be transparent, usually the most common complaint that I receive from employers is not that Georgia Tech students lack technical skill sets. It's usually more on the essential skills like communication, teamwork, etc., where students have a harder time communicating or demonstrating that they have these particular skills and qualities. That's why student involvement is important. That's why being active in team projects, either in courses or outside of courses, is important. And also trying to help students to reflect that, yes, this may be an academic project, or sure, you're involved in this student group that's not directly related to the industry or area that you want to pursue, but there's a lot of value out of that. And when you get into an interview, you're going to be expected to demonstrate that you have not only technical skills, but also these essential skills and other specialized skills like languages, certifications, and some industry-specific skill sets, certainly. So we work with students on how they can communicate these in a variety of different ways. So as I mentioned with the career fair, we've provided sample elevator pitches, ways that students can craft their introductions. And we recommend when they're thinking about the career fair, they need to think about their pitch as an opportunity to select the most relevant information for that particular employer. That's where researching ahead of time is so critical, because elevator pitches, and you all likely have been through several interviews that typically start out with, tell me about yourself, walk me through your resume, briefly describe your background, something along those lines. And really what they're saying is, tell me something relevant about yourself. It is a golden opportunity for students to set themselves apart, whether it's through a career fair, whether it's right at the beginning of an interview. The more that they can start understanding that even though you may get these broad questions that you can answer in a variety of ways, the more you understand about your audience, the better information you can select to communicate and share with employers, and you're more likely to stand out and ultimately secure the opportunity that you're going after. So for interviews, we've got a variety of interview workshops. I actually completed one today talking about case interviews, but we also go through traditional interviews and behavioral interviews. So what I mentioned here is the importance of students understanding the STAR method. So this is most commonly used for behavioral questions that start out with, can you tell me about a time? Can you give me an example? When did you do blank? So many of your HR representatives are evaluating student responses based on this particular model. So they want to hear from the student, what was the situation? What was the task or project that you were working on? Action stands for, what specific actions did you take in this particular situation? And lastly, what was the result? So where I find students struggle the most is usually in the action and result piece. So when I'm teaching students, I recommend for them to really hone in on these two, specifically with actions. They need to understand that the actions that they share with employers are drawing analogies and trying to predict who you would be as a future worker based on the specific actions that they share. So say if, for example, an employer asks, tell me about a time you experienced conflict in a team and how did you resolve it? If students say, oh, well, somebody wasn't holding up their part, they didn't contribute in the same way, or they had poor work quality, so I went and I told my professor and resolved it that way. Heard that example, frankly, over the years, many, many times. And usually at the end, I'll ask students at the end of the mock interview, so what do you think employers are going to think based on that response? And they go, oh, they're going to think that because I had to take it to, a faculty member, to my professor, that I'm not able to deal with conflict, and anytime I have a problem, I'm going to bring it to my manager. I said, ding, 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 you're exactly right. So you have to be careful with the examples that you're sharing and be mindful of what you're sharing, because it may not necessarily put you in the best light. So result, sometimes I'll call that result or reflection. So I've heard of employers saying, tell me about a time where you failed at something. Obviously, the result is failure. That is not positive. However, you need to reflect on how you've grown from that situation. But with any behavioral question, I recommend for students to not only talk about how they made an A on the project, they received a raise, they were recognized in some sort of way, but to include a sentence or two where they reflect about the value of that particular experience. I think I see a question that may have come in, so I'll take a quick pause. All right, so a question came in. So my son is a first year. Is this too soon in the first semester to take advantage of attending the career fair next week? Just so you all are aware, for all the GT1000 presentations that I conduct, and our staff really tries to push for first year students to go ahead and attend the career fair. Main reason being, it is a big fair. And it can be very intimidating if you go for the very first time when you want that first co-op, internship, or full-time role. You don't necessarily know what to expect. So getting a feeling for the event, being able to observe other students introducing themselves, walking around, trying to understand the employers and the type of opportunities that could be provided to them or that are open to them as a Georgia Tech student. I always recommend doing it earlier than you need to. Though there are some first-year students that do end up securing internships or co-ops. It's a little bit more rare. For first-year students, I encourage them to focus on academics first, get a strong foundation. Usually what best qualifies you for your first internship or part-time job, or internship or co-op, I should say, is either part-time work, student leadership, or projects. So they need to focus on that. That's usually that step right before they get that more professional experience. So great question. My advice is start them off early. Let them get that exposure now, so when it really counts, they have that and they feel a little bit more comfortable. Great question. All right, so research. So we help students to understand bigger picture. Employers are asking you these questions for a reason. And oftentimes, what I hear the most complaints from when it comes to students is that students don't do enough research. And I don't believe that, to be honest. I think students don't understand how to communicate the research that they've done on employers back to them. So you can do that already by the methods that I talked about, from thinking about tell me about yourself to tell me something relevant about yourself. The more you understand about your audience, the better you can bring up things that are more relevant and related to the position or the employer and what's important to them. However, you can also demonstrate your research by asking good questions instead of saying, what does the training look like for this position? Anybody can ask that question. It demonstrates no understanding of that particular role. Now, I usually tell students, the model I recommend for you to use, at least for some of the questions, is first make a statement, then ask your question. Make a statement of your research. So that might be, I read in the job description that I would be doing A, B, and C. Can you tell me what that might look like in a typical week? versus if you say, what does a typical week look like? It does not demonstrate to the employer that you've done any research. And if you can ask more specific questions, that's also a great way to convey your interest. And students can never forget that they are being compared to a lot of other people throughout the entire process, from resumes to interviewing. So it's important for them to be aware that these little things add up. They make a difference. Showing up early, smiling, sending those thank you notes. Little things can make a big difference. So the more that they hear it, not only from us, but also echoed by you, more likely they will do it oftentimes. Again, I also encourage students that they need to share specific examples and to not include generalities, because employers want to see specific examples versus kind of broader philosophies or statements like, I'm a strong communicator, excellent leader, strong team player. That's very subjective. So communication is a great example. To exhibit strong communication skills, if you list that on a resume, which I do not recommend using broad terms like that, I oftentimes hear more positive feedback from employers that they would like to see something along the lines of how a student edited 5 articles each week for the technique, or they presented in front of a student group of 50 members on A, B, or C each week. Being more specific and demonstrating you have these skill sets is better than stating it, because stating it is subjective and communication is broad. It can be written, it can be spoken. So again, the more specific you are, the better you'll represent yourself and stand out to employers. We also talk to students about the importance of getting on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn for many employers is essentially a passive database of potential future employees. I have heard of Georgia Tech students who have been reached out to via LinkedIn or other means and encouraged to apply to some great career opportunities that are out there. So even if they don't get contacted by employers during their time at Georgia Tech, it's a good thing for them to go ahead and be aware of and start doing, because long term they may find additional opportunities by being engaged in the professional, larger world of work, specifically on LinkedIn. I encourage students to get involved in professional associations or professional groups, not only at Georgia Tech that are related to either their major or industry of interest, but also Atlanta is a wonderful place. There are tons of professional associations students can get involved with. And I oftentimes encourage students, you've got to flip the script. It's very easy and tempting to say, all right, I want a job. I'll just go onto LinkedIn or Indeed or Career Builder. That's easy. However, anybody else can do that. Anybody in the world can do that and apply for an opportunity. So if it's easy, that means a lot of people are doing it. So your chances are going down, down, down. The bigger the job board is and the less strategic you are with securing an opportunity. So networking is the #1 way that most students find jobs, and you can network online, through the career fair, through other events on Georgia Tech's campus. You can connect with Georgia Tech alumni. There are a variety of different means. However, you also want to be aware that if you're involved in a professional association, you've got to think like an employer. Let's just say that I needed to find individuals that have expertise in electrical engineering. My preference as an employer, and if you're trying to think, how could I find a population of electrical engineers, maybe mid-career, for example, possibly entry level, that could fulfill this particular role that I'm trying to fill? All right, I'll post on my company job board. All right, if that doesn't work and I'm not getting a good talent pool, what's the next most logical thing? Try to find an electrical engineering society, professional organization, and promote it to them. More likely to get better applicants. Usually the last resort employers will resort to is a big job board that anybody can access. But Career Buzz, you always need to promote it to your students. This is only accessible to Georgia Tech students. And employers are actively going in and posting these opportunities. This is not a job aggregator. We are not pulling from multiple sites into Career Buzz. These are real opportunities that are just being offered to Georgia Tech students, and their chances of getting them are higher. And we also walk students through how they can email individuals appropriately to network and communicate their interest. in perhaps that individual's background, as well as to seek advice on how to ultimately network and go into a variety of different fields. Let me check in really quickly. There are other questions. So great question. So will there be any other career fairs this school year? Yes. So at Georgia Tech, we have a all majors career fair, but there are also some departmental career fairs that are offered, different student groups that will lead either school specific, major specific, or industry specific career fairs. So again, career.godtech.edu, click events right at the top. Career fairs, all career fairs we are aware of will be listed there, and they're all across campus. So sometimes they'll be Georgia Tech led, but there are some regional career fairs or industry specific career fairs we'll hear about that will also include. That way students and parents are aware of the events that are going on. All right. So I wanted to leave plenty of time for more specific questions that you all may have.
Or we have a couple more questions as well. Do students need a suit or is it business casual acceptable?
So students should wear a suit, and again, they can check it out for free in the Career Center. So all the details are on our website on how to do that. It is important for them to show up business professional, because if they show up business casual, we oftentimes get feedback from employers that it just leaves a poor impression. It's like dressing up for any particular occasion. So if you go to prom or you go to some sort of formal occasion, you dress up for that particular occasion. The career fair, you need to dress for that occasion too, but know that they can check out business professional attire from the Career Center. They don't already have that.
And then another question we have for you is for the summer 2022 and the career fair next week, will the employers be hiring for next summer, or will there be a career fair later in the school year for summer internships in 2022?
I am so glad you asked this question. And please, 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 if you're distracted right now, you're looking at other things, you have another tab open, pause, listen to this one thing I'm going to say, because students get this wrong all the time. From my experience working in employer relations and my job here at Georgia Tech, so I've worked at multiple institutions over the past 15 years, working directly with employers seeking to hire students. Over the years, I've noticed a trend where there are a lot of employers that are seeking students in the fall for opportunities that begin summer 2022, the following summer. There are some industries that are even earlier. Investment banking, I know of firms that are targeting second semester sophomores for opportunities that begin more than a year in advance. Not all of them. Consulting also recruits very early, but a general rule of thumb that I share with students is that the bigger the company is, the earlier they tend to recruit. But either way, the world is a dynamic place, and I share this with students. The world does not revolve around college. The working world is dynamic. There will be an increase in demand for products or services in a variety of industries. People retire, industry trends shift. So there will always be opportunities that are out there, but it's important for students to start early, because sometimes the big brands that a lot of Georgia Tech students, state that they want to ultimately work for, recruit primarily in the fall, and they may or may not come back in the spring either for internship or full-time opportunities. So it's better to be early. Not every employer recruits in the fall, but it's good to go ahead and put yourself out there. Some industries, like naturally any sort of startup or small business, small to medium-sized businesses, entertainment, film and media, those types of industries tend to be more just-in-time hiring organizations, where they may only wait a month, maybe two, before ultimately, wanting to hire somebody and have them start. So general rule of thumb, tell them to start looking in the fall. They shouldn't panic if they don't secure something in the fall, because there will still be opportunities in the spring. But I always hate it when I have students that, talk to me in spring and say, oh, I really want to do an internship with Apple this summer. And I'll go, oh, they only recruit in the fall. So there is literally nothing we can do other than tell them, wait until next year. So, other questions?
Just, I hope you don't mind if I put you on the spot really quickly for the parents. Mm-hmm. For a company like Apple, say for instance, if you were a CS major here at Tech, Could you give an example of an elevator pitch that would be effective and that would come off, strong to a Apple recruiter?
Sure. So that's where, again, knowing your audience and knowing the position is very helpful. So an example might be, hello, I'm Laura Garcia. I'm a third-year computer science major, and I'll be graduating May blank. Through my CS courses, I'm currently taking a course on C++, Java, and Python. In my student projects, I've done A, B, or C. I created this recent program. I've got examples of my work on my professional website that I'm happy to share with you. Beyond my academic training and projects, I've also been involved as a student member in blank club, where I've developed stronger communication skills, etc. Due to these experiences, I feel like I would be a strong candidate for the Apple Internship program, and I'd love to hear a little bit more information about what you're seeking from an ideal candidate. A little bit rough there, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
We have an example pitch that you can check out on the Career Fair website too. And if you go to our YouTube channel, we also give a sample pitch that students can look over.
Great. That was awesome, Laura. Thank you so much. I would definitely hire you if I just.
Okay. If only I had real experience to pull from. It's so much easier when you can say,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I did this computer science programming project or whatever it may be.
And just to follow up with that, for the parents or family members who may have a student who is a little bit on the shyer side or maybe isn't necessarily an extrovert, what advice would you give to those parents to kind of help boost up the morale of their students and let them know that, hey, it's okay, just be yourself?
Yeah, and I think authenticity is important, and it's not about being perfect. Practice makes better. I don't believe practice makes perfect, because the end goal is not about being perfect. I oftentimes say, students, remember that everybody you're talking to was a student too, and it's not about being perfect. It's okay to be nervous. Sometimes people like to see that because they feel more empathy towards you. They feel more of a connection to you. But that's where I think preparation and research sometimes helps students get over those initial nerves. And the more that they practice, the better. So if you can be a partner for them and encourage them to practice, this is a muscle they exercise. Nobody got on the bike unless you're just fantastic and immediately rode it off into the sunset and just did a great job. Like anything in life, it takes a little bit of time. It takes practice. Students can't learn how to program in Python in a day. They need to set aside time, practice, and the better they'll get.
And what supplies or materials, Laura, should students bring to the career fair? Pen, pencil, paper, resume, of course.
All of the above. So they should bring several copies of their resume, more than they think they need. So if they identified 10 employers they wanted to talk to, I would probably bring 20 resumes. Reason being, they may walk around the fair, find somebody there that they didn't anticipate and want to talk to them and leave a resume. So always bring more than you think you need. You should bring a professional portfolio because you may want to take down some notes. And if you get business cards, another tip that I give to students is that if you receive an employer's business card, as soon as you leave, flip it over, jot down a couple notes of the things you talked about. Because if you're meeting a lot of people, it starts to all blur together. But you can pull that up later that night when you send a follow-up thank you note, which students should do. You can incorporate some of the specific things that you talked about.
Are internships that are offered during the career fairs all paid or are some unpaid?
The majority are paid. All co-ops are paid. That's a requirement to be a co-op in order to for students to participate through the co-op program. All of those are paid. I find that most employers outside of government, nonprofit, startups, sometimes they'll have unpaid opportunities, but I would say the majority will be paid.
And just following up with that, just in case we have any first year parents who may be on the call, could you talk about what a co-op is, the benefits of it that you've seen from your experience, and just kind of the differences between the co-op and actual internship?
Sure. So an internship is 3 to 6 months in length, and it's a one-time commitment. If students want to participate in co-op, it consists of 3 rotations where they work, go to school, work, go to school, back and forth until they complete that rotation. there's a common misconception that if you participate in the co-op program, you'll delay your graduation a full year. On average, it may take students an additional semester. They may still be able to graduate within that 4-year block. It depends on when they secure the co-op. And it also depends on how many credits that they brought into college. So be aware of that. Financially, it makes a lot of sense for students to either incorporate an internship during their time at Georgia Tech or a co-op. Based on our research, students who engage in co-ops on average make $5,000 more per year entry-level salary than students who have no background experience or co-op in that particular industry that they are pursuing. Anecdotally, I will tell you the students that most often use our services after graduation and struggle with finding a job did not do an internship, did not do a co-op. Or I think research on campus is extremely important. It well qualifies you for master's programs, for PhD programs, and I think it's a great thing for you to include in addition to work experience. But if all you do is research during your time at Georgia Tech, and all of your peers or a lot of your peers took the time to get a co-op or an internship, you've got to keep in mind that they have something extra hands-on that you do not possess. And that's really hurt some of our students. So the main difference between co-ops and internships is the time of commitment, but just know if students participate in either of these experiences, which they can do all year, you can do an internship, take a semester off, register the internship, do it during spring, fall. Same thing with co-ops and internships. Again, you register all of that through our office. It's very much worthwhile. Students, on average, at least co-ops, about $5,000 more per year with entry-level salaries. And you all know this, likely many of you all very well, that many times raises are based on that base salary amount. So exponentially, your student will do much better by having that higher salary, but you've got to have a justification. The more skills and qualities you bring, the more likely an employer will extend a higher offer.
All right. Thank you so much, Laura. My student is a business major first year. What are his chances of landing a summer internship?
So usually what I recommend for students, in particular that first year, they may not be able to secure a business internship or a business co-op. Some employers prefer for you to be in your sophomore or junior year because you have more courses under your belt, more student involvement, other experiences. So they should not overlook opportunities like working at a summer camp. There are some employers that will do leadership academies that students can participate in. They could try, and maybe they can't get an internship in financial services their very first summer, but they could work as a bank teller. They could work part-time in some sort of employment area. If you could even get remotely in that industry, that's helpful. So maybe you want to work in healthcare in the future, but maybe your first job is working as a front desk assistant for a local doctor, a local healthcare related organization. So try to get that step right before the internship or co-op position. That's another great way. I actually had a great conversation with an employer who worked on Wall Street in trading. He said, Laura, that a lot of the students that I pick have done summer camp counselor roles because I also did it, and I know how hard that work is. You have to manage difficult conversations and situations between parents, between students. You have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. So keep in mind, again, that employers don't just value that business or industry related experience. Sometimes there's positive bias in the job search where if they see, oh, you were a camp counselor, I was a camp counselor, or oh, you worked in this or you were involved in this student club, oh, I was too. I want to talk to somebody that's like me. So maybe they can get an internship after that first year. It's difficult, to be honest. Most first year students don't have a professional internship or co-op because, naturally sophomores and juniors have a little bit of a leg up, but they can still utilize their time wisely. Any other questions?
For the parents and families who may have a upcoming graduating senior and they're going through salary negotiation over the next couple of weeks, any tips with that in terms of negotiating the salary that you may can lean out to the parents?
Mm-hmm. One thing I would recommend, please encourage your student to look through our programming guide. We have several salary negotiation workshops that are coming up where we really dive in depth and talk about it and give sample scripts. Where most students make the mistake is they have no idea what a common salary offer for that particular job is, or salary range for that particular job offer. So for co-ops and internships, they're a little bit more set with their rate. You may not have the ability as a student to negotiate that much, maybe for a dollar or two more. Maybe you could use a competing offer to slightly bump up your hourly rate. For the most part, you probably won't negotiate your salary until your full-time offer. So using things like Glassdoor can be extremely helpful. Salary.com is okay, but Salary.com has inflated salary levels, in my opinion, because they average salaries from all across the US. San Francisco, New York, other big cities kind of bring up that bracket to where it's a little bit unrealistic, in particular for students that want to work in Atlanta, but we do have Georgia Tech students, of course, that work all across the world. I find Glassdoor to be most helpful. They need to identify common salaries that are given not only by that employer, they should be looking at their competitors, trying to get a sense of the average salary, because most of the time, entry-level salaries, there is a bracket, there is not a set number. However, I tell students, this is one of the few times in your life you can ask one question and potentially get thousands of dollars. You have to give a little bit more of a script than one question, but I always recommend for students to use the question, is there any flexibility in the entry, in the salary amount? Is there any flexibility? I always leave it broad, not can I make $1,000 more? Can I make $2,000 more? If you leave it open, I've heard of employers that sometimes give a little bit more than students are expecting, which is fantastic. Using a personal example, I had to convince my husband, you have to negotiate your salary when we moved to Atlanta. He didn't want to do it. And I said, all right, focus on all the great skills and qualities you're bringing. And at the end of it, you could just ask, the only hesitation I have was the base salary amount. Is there any flexibility with that? He asked one question, got a $5,000 more per year salary bump. Future raises are based on that base salary amount at many organizations. Again, one question. So please encourage your students to participate in these workshops, and they need to do their research to understand common salary ranges.
Great, Laura. I know he was happy when your advice worked.
We both were. We were ecstatic. All right. So I see. Okay, so how does a second year status as a freshman help in securing an internship? So for some employers, they may be a little bit set, I guess you could say. So if you come in at a sophomore level, you may be able, or you may be considered for opportunities sooner than first year students that are still considered at that first year status, potentially. It depends on the employer. Sometimes they may still want to see, all right, well, you just started at Georgia Tech. What have you done yet? Well, it's still, you're just getting started, even though you may be at a second year status and someone else is at a first year status. You may only have your high school experience, at least for a couple of months, and to really depend on until you get involved at Georgia Tech. So you might be on a pretty even level. It depends on the employer.
Laura, as we get ready to close out with about 5 minutes left, if you could just touch on some resumes, to-dos, and don'ts
Mm-hmm.
that could be included and not be included really quickly.
Sure, absolutely. So be sure to check out the resume guide. If you scroll down career.godtech.edu, it's on the main page. Be sure to share that with your student. The key thing that I recommend for students is to remember that the job description is your cheat sheet. And I know this is a corny joke. I make it in every presentation in front of students. I said, I am the only person in college that is going to strongly recommend you plagiarize. The job description says exactly what they're looking for from a potential candidate, the ideal candidate. Students should incorporate the job description language into their resume as much as possible. It's important to note, and many students are unaware of this, that the first person that looks at their resume is probably not the person that they're working with day in, day out. Engineers don't want to review resumes of every candidate that comes in, nor do a lot of us in a variety of career areas. So it's helpful for them to understand that the first person is usually an HR person that's hiring for accounting, communications, for engineering, IT, a lot of different functions. And they were instructed to find somebody that matches these qualifications. So the more that students can do to tailor their resume, the better. I encourage them to have a master resume where they're not worried about page length. Though for most first year students, I would say 95% or more, I strongly recommend they have a one-page resume, or just be aware that if they go beyond one page, that many employers stop and they may not see what's on the second page. So they need to prioritize. But we do have a first year student example in our resume guide, as well as students from a variety of different majors. We have a master's level example in there as well. And we're happy to work with students one-on-one to review their resumes. All right, any others?
I don't see any. And just for the parents who may have joined in, if you could just touch on office hours, availability, how does walk-in appointments and all that good stuff works.
Sure. So the Career Center has drop-in hours Monday through Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. We have appointments that you schedule through CareerBuzz. CareerBuzz you can access through the main Career Center webpage. If you have your phone on you, if you scan the code on the left-hand side, you can see all the upcoming workshops. You can text your student that individual link. You can even recommend workshops you see coming up that you think may be of benefit to them. But CareerBuzz, you can schedule appointments. You can stop by the Career Center Monday through Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. for quick questions. And please encourage them to attend our workshops during peak years or peak times of the year, like right now, since our career fair is next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It can be difficult sometimes to get a one-on-one appointment. That's why we drive students to drop-in hours and we drive students to attend these bigger workshops so we can share a lot of great information in depth to many students at once.
Thank you so much, Laura. And we'd just like to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be with us here today. As we know and as we've heard, career centers can be your best friend when you're wanting to secure a job, internship, or a co-op. And, we're promoting this resource because we don't want you to feel like as parents and as families and even the students like you're in this, by yourself. We're all in this together, and the resources and programs are here to get your student across the stage and on to that next step. And please know that this will be recorded. So this will be posted to our website, parents.gatech.edu, within the next 24 hours under the Stay Connected tab under virtual recordings. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email our office, parents@gatech.edu, and I can forward those on to Laura if they are Career Center related. Thanks so much and have a nice day. Go Jackets.
Thank you. Bye-bye.